Hello and welcome to the Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Playle and this week I'm joined by Justin O'Hanlon, Nick Watts and Paul Binfield from Paddy Power. We're going to jump straight into the action as per usual. We've got a look ahead to day one of Glorious Goodwood that starts. Justin will tell us his best bets for day two of Galway that starts. And there's another chance to win a free £25 or €25 bet from Paddy Power. But first, we have to talk about the queen of the weekend, Enable. Her absolutely awesome performance in the King George. Just want to quickly get everyone's thoughts on how good she is and looking forward to the Arc. Paul, first off, can we get some Arc prices, please?
Yeah, she's 2-1 favourite, Maddie, Enable, after that scintillating performance. 6-1 Almanzor, 7 Bramito, 8 Satano Diamond, and it's 12-1 Bar.
Okay, brilliant. Justin, I'll go to you first. Obviously, Enable, she was getting that weight from the other horses, but she was pretty spectacular, wasn't she?
Visually very impressive. I think you'd have to have some sort of doubts over the form, though, wouldn't you? I mean, Ulysses is probably better at 1.25 miles. Idaho is a plotter and probably a cup horse for next year. Highland Reel didn't handle the ground at all. On saying that, she was visually very impressive, but I think you still have to have some. No, she couldn't have done any more than she did. That's quite correct. But I think I'd have a measure of doubt about those that finish behind her for various reasons. But no, she could do no more than she did, and she's a worthy favourite for the Arc. But she's not going to win. She's not going to win the Arc by 4 or 5 lengths.
Do you fancy any of the ones in behind to reverse that form? Do you think something like Highland Reel, looking at the Arc, could be better value?
I would imagine they're probably more looking to Delmar for him. I would think all depends on the ground. If it's soft ground or anything even approaching that in France, Highland Reel won't run, and a lot can happen between now and then. But I'd be very interested to see what Almanzor is capable of when he comes back.
Really?
If he comes back. Of the 3-year-olds, Enable is clearly the best, but I'm still struggling to believe, a bit like the doubting Thomas here, but I'm still struggling to believe that she's that much better than the older horses when it comes to maybe possibly good ground in Paris in October, though indeed it might be the same as it was on Saturday at Ascot, ground-wise anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously looking forward to the Arc. 3-year-old fillies have a tremendous record. Watsy, is it something that you'd be looking at and thinking, I want to take her on, or do you just think with the weight she gets and the sort of horse she is, she's a very strong staying type, that she'll love it, or...?
It's tricky. When did she start off? Chester, wasn't it? Chester's May meeting she started off, and she's obviously brilliant and in a rich vein of form at the moment. Funny things can happen in the autumn. It's a long time to keep a horse on the go. It's a long time for John Gosden's just going to have to mind her a bit now, so she's still as good, hopefully as good now as she will be in the autumn. So she doesn't go off the boil. But you can't argue what she did at the weekend. Yeah, she was getting weight, and a couple of those wouldn't have, handled the ground, as Justin said, but she would probably want it better as well, but she still coped with it. And the fish and water diet that Frankie was on all week obviously paid dividends. But the only and it is the only quibble I've got about her for the Arc at the moment, is her price. Would I want to take 2-1 about a horse, in the first week of October when we're not even in August yet? No, I probably wouldn't. But that's not to say she couldn't go and do something similar to what she did yesterday. She is very good. And I'm pleased that Connections were rewarded. They could have taken the soft option and gone for the Yorkshire Oaks. They took the brave route. They took on the boys, and she delivered. And so hats off to John Gosden and team for taking that decision. It was great that she was in the race, and even better that she put in a show like that.
I mean, John Gosden said that she's the best filly he's had now, so his confidence obviously speaks volumes. Is there anything else you look at the Arc now and think, I definitely want to be back in that, or is it still too far out for you?
It's still too far out. I mean, some of the ones in behind, I thought Ulysses emerged with great credit again, but I'm sure he's probably better at 1 mile and 2, so maybe the Champion Stakes for him.
Maybe one for the Breeders' Cup or something like that.
Yeah, quite possibly. Highland Reel obviously didn't go on the ground, and to a lesser extent, Idaho probably didn't either. But, another big up to Aidan O'Brien here as well for bringing the horses over and letting them race, because it would have been easy to pull the pair of them out once it started raining again on Saturday. But he let them take their chance. He offered no excuses afterwards. Was really pleased with the way they ran. And he's gracious in defeat, Aidan. He's brilliant like that, and so hats off to him as well for letting the pair of them run.
Totally agree.
Him and Gosden are keeping the race alive, aren't they?
Well, they are.
Eamon,
John Gosden throws anything at that race, doesn't he? In recent years, he just seems to go for it, and I think it's what the race needs.
I think he's still one of the great traditionalists around. You know that of previous generations of trainers who followed a certain route with their, like say, with a middle distance 3-year-old. It's Derby, Irish Derby, King George, and he still seems to believe in that sort of progression. So, which is all too rare these days. So hats off to him for that.
Indeed. Binners, anything to add for the Arc? Any eye catchers from the King George for you?
Not really, Maddie. I thought that Enable was worth taking on for the price in the King George, and I was sadly proved wrong. And listen, she's 2-1 for the Arc, and I agree with Nick. I think she's too short for the Arc at this stage. But you know, when it comes down to it, she's won 2 Oaks by 5 lengths and a King George by 4.5. So she's clearly the one to beat at this stage.
Yeah, okay. We're going to be done with the King George now, but just quickly, has anyone got any other weekend eye catchers? Anything that caught your eye at Ascot, Wattsy or anywhere else?
Yeah, Johnny Barnes was one in the international run well. He's held up well off the pace. I think he came from last to fourth, which was a pretty good effort. And there was one, Justin would have seen this as well. I think that the Pentagon won at Leopardstown last Thursday, but there's a horse in behind making its debut, Nelson, who's quite interesting. He's one of these O'Briens that caught the eye first time out. I'm sure would progress massively next time. And keep him on your radar and look out for him in a maiden next time. He could be good.
Okay, excellent. If you're mentioning the Pentagon, you've got to mention Happily, haven't you? Did you like what you saw with her? I thought she was really impressive.
Fantastic. I'll let Justin go on for
yeah,
her.
I was going to say,
she was pretty good.
I probably just stole your one, Justin. But anything for you?
She was good, all right. Happily was good. The more impressive of the two. Whether she's well, I suppose Aidan has such an embarrassment of riches amongst the 2-year-old fillies, especially when you could start maybe talking of her in the same sort of mini breath as the likes of Clemmy or September, and he's going to have some, as I said, as I wrote in the report, he's going to have some pleasant selection headaches for a race like the Debutante and the Moigler in the upcoming weeks. I was delighted to see Success Days win at the York for Ken Condon. He's a horse who he's as tough as nails, and he just tends to get edged out in races like that. But he really held on doggedly in that race on Saturday, and good for Ken as well. He's one of the gentlemen of the game, and it was delighted for him too.
Yeah, he's a lovely horse. Always been very consistent. He's had his problems, so like you say, it's glad to see them rewarded. Binners, any market movers or any eye catchers for you?
Just my friend the Curracundra, Brendan Duke. His 2-year-olds are running brilliantly. He hasn't had a winner yet, but they keep going in at huge prices amongst the places. He had another one called Warm the Voice the other day at 50-1. That was placed, and he's got a lovely filly for Jim Bolger called Feisty Katerina, and she'll be interesting in a maiden next time.
Okay.
Don't forget the Brogy Man, Binners.
The Brogy Man, yeah. Like there's any number of them. Another one that's entered in the debutante for Mr. Rodriguez, connected to Reading Football Club. Brendan's 2-year-olds are well worth a watch.
Okay, I love that. Love everyone's eye catchers there. Now, before the break, here's your chance to win a free £25 or €25 free bet from Paddy Power. Simply tweet your answer to this question with the hashtag Postcast. Who is favourite for the Arc with Paddy Power? We'll announce the winner on Friday's show, and the free bet will be credited to your Paddy Power account.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, welcome back to the Monday Postcast. I'm Maddie Playle, and I've been joined by Justin O'Hanlon, Nick Watts and Paul Binfield from Paddy Power. We've had a good old look at Enable's King George win. We've dissected that performance, but we're going to look forward to Goodwood first. Now, we're going to kick ourselves off with the 150 Matchbook betting exchange handicap, the race that starts the whole festival. And this looks like it could be a really, really trappy event. Worth noting that no horse has won carrying less than 9 stone since 2012, which I believe comes in with Garcia and UAE Prince, who are near the top of the market. Binners, can you clarify that for us?
I can. Incredible value from Paddy. 5 places each way, but Garcia is 5-1 favourite. Karat 13-2. 7 UAE Prince, 9 Murad Khan, and it's 10 bar, Maddie.
Okay, you could kick us off, Binners. We'll stick with you. Do you like the favourite in this, or are you looking elsewhere?
No, I'm going to take the favourite on, Maddie. I like the horse Murad Khan. He's a 9-1 chance. He won last time at Windsor. First time he ran after being gelded. Had a hood on, which made him look much more relaxed, and he's won on soft ground. I think that he should handle the conditions well, and I quite like him for Hugo Palmer and the Doyler.
Excellent. Hugo Palmer's really seemed to be hitting form now, hasn't he, after a bit of a rough start to the season. Justin, who was your selection?
No, leave me out of this one, Maddie. Don't ask me about English handicaps.
Not a clue, no? Nothing take your eye at all?
Nothing. I haven't even looked at it, to be honest.
We'll go to Watsy then. Hopefully you've had a look.
Yeah, I had a little look. Oasis Fantasy.
Not that old rogue.
It goes against your the stat that you gave at the beginning, because I think it's carrying under 9 stone. But it was the next second in the race last season off £5 higher. It's got a new headgear combo on this time, and it's got Jamie Spencer in the saddle. It's a typical Spencer kind of ride, really. He's going to have to thread his way through, as you often do at Goodwood, so we'll need the breaks. But I think he's a decent double-figure price. He's been running okay this season, not too bad at all. And like I said, handicap to go close again. So Oasis Fantasy, what price is he, Paul? 12s? 14s?
Oasis Fantasy is 14s, Nick.
There we go, 14 to 1.
Tasty
Can't
value.
say fairer than that.
I think Goodwood as well is one of those tracks where you want a horse that handles it and seems to go well there. And although he is a quirky horse, he does seem to like it, doesn't he? So that may be wise. We'll move on to the 225 Qatar Vintage Stakes here. We've obviously got a brilliant roll of honour with Highland Reel, Olympic Glory and Galileo Gold amongst the recent winners. There's a French horse in there, Ewan O'Neill's horse, Cold Stare. We have Seahenge with the Scat Daddy Factor and Expert Eye for Sir Michael Stout, who's been working the gallops down. Binners, how do they bet?
Well, yeah, we make Aidan O'Brien's Seahenge 9-4 favourite. Maddie, Expert Eye, who you've been watching on the gallops, 3-1 Mildenberger 5, 8-1 Cold Stare and James Garfield, and it's 11 bar.
Okay, Justin, surely you can offer something on this.
Oh, I can, yeah. Just handicaps. Just leave me out of those English handicaps. But yeah, Seahenge did very, very well to win first time up at Naas, considering how the Ballydoyle 2-year-olds have been coming on for a run this season. I think it says something fairly special with this one, that it managed to win first time. Absolutely as green as grass. The penny didn't drop at all until, say, the last half furlong, and the way he quickened up the hill, or the way she quickened up the hill that day to win, was impressive. And the one that was second is a very decent yardstick. Michael Halford trained Yulong Warrior, who'd been second to Sioux Nation the time before at Cork. And the form is strong. I think this one probably could improve a stone for its win. I probably would be concerned if the ground got a little bit too soft. I don't know what the forecast is for good. It's good to soft at the minute, isn't it? As we're speaking, might be a slight concern there, but I think 9-4 is a fair price. I think he's probably the best horse in the race, and I'd be surprised if he isn't the best horse in the race, and I'd be even more surprised if he didn't improve considerably for that win at Naas.
Okay, I mentioned the Scat Daddy Factor. Is breeding, and is that something you would look at going into Goodwood, or do you just tend to think, oh, well, it's Aidan O'Brien, he's won on his debut, and like you say, he's going to improve?
Oh, well, you have to consider all sorts of factors, don't you? American pedigree on soft ground is not something that you would automatically say, yeah, I'll back that if that comes up. But,
they seem to be doing very well at the moment, though, don't they? Sort of a buzzword, Scat Daddy, yeah, especially after Royal Ascot.
Yeah, and I mean, this fella looked pretty good the first time at Naas, and as I say, you can only see him improving considerably for that run. He'd be booking the trend of all the Ballydoyle 2-year-olds if he didn't.
Okay, excellent. Nick, do you agree?
Yeah, he's promising. I think Mark Johnston's got a good horse in there as well. Mildenberg, he's 2 from 2, and very impressed with the way he won at Newbury last time out, on similar ground to what he'll probably face tomorrow. The dilemma for him is he's dropping back from 7 to 6, and whether he'll have the pace to cope with that. He's by Teofilo, who tends to get his progeny tend to stay quite well. So that would be the issue for me. But Mark Johnston has rolled the dice and is going to run him, and maybe he'll get away with it on the ground with a bit of digging. If it's on the slow side, it might actually help him that he can win over 7 furlongs. He'll certainly be very strong at the finish. And Johnston's horses, they leave it all out there, don't they? I'm sure he'll be up the front, fighting all the way. So You know, the fact that he's won over further might be a small help might be a small help to him tomorrow. So yeah, I'd go with Mildenberger. I think it's 5-1. I think he would do for me.
Okay, excellent. I really love that horse as well. Do you think with these Mark Johnston horses, a lot of people dismiss them as the precocious 2-year-olds that he tends to typically get, and then when they do step up, do you think they're underestimated a little bit?
It's hard to say. Mark Johnston's he's a very difficult train to pigeonhole, and a lot of his horses, not necessarily that, you know, I'm talking about Mildenberger now, but you think they've plateaued. And then all of a sudden they'll go and win again. So they have a couple of ones next to their name, they have a couple of duck eggs, and you think, okay, he's levelled off, and then they just go and take off again. He's an amazing trainer, and I'm sure he's going to be in for a good week again this week.
Okay, excellent. We'll be back to discuss the Qatar Lennox Stakes after this short break.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes second, third or fourth to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, welcome back to the Monday Postcast. As I just mentioned, we're going to talk about the Qatar Lennox Stakes now, which is a great race because it's over 7 furlongs, so it brings in those milers who are dropping back and the sprinters who are coming through as well. I think we have Librita Breeze in here, who finished 4th in the Diamond Jubilee last time, and Dutch Connection amongst those. He obviously won the race last year. Binners, kick us off with betting, please.
Yeah, no problem. 4 places each way. Librita Breeze 7-2, along with Limato. 5 Spirit of Valour, 7 Home of the Brave, and it's 10-1 bar.
Okay, we've spoke about the ground, so obviously that brings in Limato straight away. I'm not sure if they're going to run. Are you sure yet?
I think it's going to be a late decision, and they're going to see what it's like closer to the off time. But it certainly brings a new dimension to the race, because I'd kind of factored him out thinking he wasn't going to be running, and then he appeared in the declarations yesterday when they came through. So it does add another dimension to it completely, and the class angle, he provides it, because him and Librita Breeze been running in the top sprints, and Limato's equally adept at 7 furlongs. So it's a tough nut to he's going to be a tough nut to crack.
Well, the favourite has won 5 of the last 6 runnings, so if Librita Breeze is the current favourite, would he be your selection?
I'd actually be inclined to go with Aidan's horse here, Spirit of Valour. The ground might be a little bit slower than he cares for, but the last couple of runs, he's really taken a huge step forward. He's a 66-1 rag at Royal Ascot in the Jersey, but he ran an absolute stormer and had everything else well beaten off and just succumbed in the last kind of 100 yards.
So what's probably a very good horse.
A very good French horse. Yeah. And then won over 7 furlongs last time at the Qatar. He's probably entitled to win that, but did it nicely. And he's just one of Aidan's that's taken a big leap forward in the last couple of starts. He's probably found his niche at 7 furlongs. It seems to be the ideal trip for him. He'll make them all go.
Yeah, I quite like that idea. As you say, by Warfront, might be wise to keep an eye on the ground, but he's improved no end. Justin, over to you next. What do you make of the Lennox Stakes?
Yeah, I think the reason that Spirit of Valour has improved no end is because they've discovered that fast ground is what he wants, and he had it at Ascot, had it at the Curragh the last day. I do think it probably comes down to the 2 sprinters going up in trip, and particularly Librita Breeze, who did appear to be so unlucky in the Ascot race, and has no problems on the ground. I think he won a big handicap on soft ground at Ascot at the back end of last year, didn't he? He is the one that ticks most of the boxes for me. Spirit of Valour if Spirit of Valour handles the ground, it brings a new dimension into it, but I think the slower the ground, the worse his chance probably is. And okay. Librita Breeze for me.
Okay, Ben, has anything interesting been going on in the market here with Limato? Obviously, always bound to make it more interesting.
Yeah, not really, Maddie. He's been solid at 7-2. I think if he does line up, it will indicate that Henry Candy's happy with the ground. And I believe he said in the past that 7 furlongs is his best trip. And he's been running in Group 1s for a long time, down in class in this Group 2. And if he takes his place, I think he'll be very difficult to beat.
Okay, simple as that then from Binners. We're going to talk about the Qatar Goodwood Cup at 3:35 now. Obviously, we have Big Orange, everybody's favourite horse, who's bidding for a hat-trick, the 3rd win in a row. Double Trigger is the only horse to do so, but he didn't manage to do it in consecutive years. Do we think he can do it? Yes or no? Kick us off, Nick.
Yeah, I think he probably will do it, but I'm not going to tip him. Does that answer your question? Or
yes, it does. That's a Maddie answer. That's something I'd say probably.
Yeah.
Not for you?
No, I think he's the most likely winner, but, I always prefer to looking for something at bigger prices, and I'm going to put up a horse that Justin probably hates, US Army Ranger, who...
I believe you gave him a positive mention a few weeks ago, didn't you, on here?
Yeah, I did, and he's a tricky horse. I mean, he hasn't won since he won his trial last year at Chester, and he's had a few disappointments since then, but they're trying to reinvent him into a stayer, and they ran him in the Queen Alexandra last time, which might have been a step too far for him. It was a hell of a long trip, the Queen Alexandra. Didn't run badly at all in that, finished third. Back to 2 miles here. I think he's in the first-time hood, and... Yeah, I mean, he's number 2, isn't he, for them, behind Order of St George, who's very much their top stayer. But I'm just interested in the fact that they're persevering with him for a start. They're running him in a lot of good races, which, indicates they might still have seen something in him that he could compete at this level. It's a bigger field, which I think might help him. I just think he's a bit of a quirky horse. I'd just like to see him buried in this race and hopefully just do as much on the bridle as he can and, let's see what he's capable of. 2 miles should be his optimum trip. I think it might have been a bit too far last time. Maybe he doesn't have the pace for a mile and 4. Justin will probably just tell me I'm talking absolute nonsense and he's a real rogue. But at double-figure prices, I think he's got a fair chance of hitting the frame.
OK, talking of prices, Binners, what price US Army Ranger and the rest of them?
Well, 14 to 1 the US Army Ranger. Paddy's giving a free bet if your horse finishes second or third or fourth to the SP favourite. According to the market, Big Orange is a certainty. 5 to 6 favourite. Sheikh Zayed Road, US Army Ranger, Stradivarius all on 14s, and it's 16 bar.
OK, fantastic. Obviously, we have the 2 3-year-olds in there, Desert Skyline and Stradivarius. Tom Siegel talks about the weight advantage and how much he wanted those 3-year-olds to run. But a 3-year-old hasn't won it since 1990. I'm not sure how many have took part, but I think it'd be a really good angle to see those in there. Justin, do you fancy the 3-year-olds at all, or is it something else for you?
Well, he's got a hell of a weight advantage, hasn't he? He's getting almost a stone from Big Orange. And is there any question mark about Big Orange on the ground either? Because he's, I don't think he's ever won on ground other than good or, I could be wrong, I could be totally wrong, but I don't think he's won anything softer than good or good to firm. Nick, about US Army Ranger, I do think he's a rogue, but he's a rogue with plenty of ability, and it wouldn't surprise you if he ran a big race here. But of the 2 Irish rogues running in the race, I think I'd far prefer Wicklow Brave than US Army Ranger. He was, I suppose, on the face of it, he might have been a wee bit disappointing when he was beaten by Rekindling in the Qatar Cup, but he was trying to give him a stone. I'd say Rekindling is one who will be trained very much with a St Ledger in mind, and that form could look very good by the end of the season. Of course, he beat Order St George in the Irish Ledger last year when he was a little bit less quirky than the runner-up. If he puts his best foot forward, I think he's a big player at around 16 to 1. I don't think Big Orange is as big a certainty as his price would suggest, although he's the most likely winner.
I've just had a quick look. I may be wrong, so prepare, for everyone to jump down my throat. But he has won once on good to soft ground at Chester a few years ago. But other than that, I think you're pretty. I think it was a listed race. Yes. Listed handicap. So yes, a long time ago. So you may be right there in just highlighting that the ground might be a problem for Big Orange. What do we reckon at bigger prices could come out and challenge him? Nick, anything other than US Army Ranger that you just think I might give that a bit of a squeak? Because we all know Big Orange's profile. We're very familiar with him. But do we think there could be something coming up through the ranks?
Well, I think Justin's one is a very fair shout for a horse who's done what he's done. And as Justin said, beat Order of St George last season. Order of St George, obviously, since been placed in an arc and all but beat Big Orange, didn't he, at Ascot last month? So,
do you think? I know he's not running, but just to ask the hypothetical question, do you think Order of St George would win this rematch here at Goodwood?
No, I don't think he would, because I think he had a very hard race at Ascot, and that's obviously why they're not running him here. He must need a break, and that's why they're doing this, and that's why they're not going for it. So, Big Orange, I think, is a horse whose maybe his constitution is slightly different, and you can weird him out more often. But no, I think he'd probably confirm the form. I think Order of St George came to him last time, and he just found a bit extra, and he's that kind of horse that just thrives on competition and eyeballing other horses.
OK, Justin, what do you reckon? Do you think Big Orange and Order of St George, if he was turning up here, do you think the form would be the same?
No, I think Artisan George would beat him over 2. With being, he's not going to be ridden probably as far off the pace over 2 as he was the 2.5 at Ascot. I think he could probably use his turn of foot a little bit more effectively over 2 against Big Orange than he was at Ascot over 2.5. I think he definitely turned the tables over 2. Yeah.
Okay, I just thought that'd be an interesting one to throw in there. Before we go for another quick break,
but he's not a horse I trust, Maddie. To be in fairness.
No, I don't think you're alone on that one. Before we do go to a quick break, just want to ask Binners quickly. What do we think, Binners, towards the bottom of the market? Anything? I mean, it's a very big field. I think it's the biggest since the turn of the century.
I mean, Michael Bell he was loving the sun out before Ascot. I think Big Orange is a really poor price considering he might not like the ground. Sheikh Zayed Road for Dave Sincock and Martin Harley, third in the Gold Cup. He has won on good to soft ground and possibly could turn the Ascot form around. While we've been on air, a few have been chopped into 12-1 from 14s actually. Stradivarius, Sheikh Zayed Road and US Army Ranger, but a great race for the each-way thieves.
No, that's good. I think that's because there's been a couple of non-runners announced this morning. Simple Verse and Dal Harold not running.
Yep, just those two. It's still going to be a pretty good race, and we'll be back in a moment to talk about it more.
Paddy Power are offering money back as a free bet if the horse you back finishes 2nd, 3rd or 4th to the SP favourite in 2 races today and every day this month. Max £25 per race. T&Cs apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Okay, so we've covered the main races on day 1 of the Glorious Goodwood Festival. Just wanted to do a quick round robin and say, has anyone got any other notes, any other eye catchers or horses they're looking forward to on day 1? Justin, anything for you, or is it just looking at those group races?
I'll just be looking at the group races, I think, Maddie. Nothing outside of what I've said already.
Just Seahenge for you then, a main one?
Seahenge, yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Nick, anything else?
Yeah, it's one, Rafe Beck, it's Amabilis, who was second to Rhododendron in a maiden at Glorious Goodwood last season. That runs tomorrow. Give that one a big chance. And a horse called Oliver Reed, named after an actor way before your time, Maddie. You probably don't remember. No, he's running in the maiden for Richard Hannon, and I think that would have a good chance too.
Always worth looking at Hannon's Raiders at Glorious Goodwood, of course. Binners, quickly, anything else from Goodwood before we move on to Galway? Yeah,
the 4:45, the 5 furlong handicap, we're 4 places each way, but the one I do like is in the 4:10, the 6 furlong maiden, Al Rahal for Marcus Tregonning and Jim Crowley. Second at Goodwood in June, and Marcus's mentor, the late great Dick Hearn, always used to say that if you go down to Glorious Goodwood and you don't get one winner on the board, it's a disgrace. So I think this one could be Marcus's for the week.
Okay, excellent. Justin, we'll go to you now talking about Galway and the day 2. What would be your best bets on the card?
Okay, well, I'll run through a few races for you if you like.
That would be lovely.
Okay, well, the first race is a 25 grand novice hurdle, which is not a bad sort of race to start with. Interesting race. Houses of Parliament is probably going to be the one that'll attract most attention here. As you know, he was third in the Ledger last year to Harbour Law. So far over hurdles hasn't really gone from. He ran actually pretty well the first day at Leopardstown at Christmas when he didn't really jump particularly well. Finished second to a good yardstick of Willie Mullins called Mary DeVee. But he's got another one of Willie's to take on here, and I think he might come up stuck against a lawman filly called imaginatively enough Law Girl. Down at the bottom, number 6. I thought it was impressive when beating a subsequent winner of Jessica Harrington's called the Birdie Crow in a maiden hurdle at Roscommon. I think there could be plenty more to come from her. She gets all the allowances. I think she could win that opening novice hurdle at 5:20. Go then to the 6:25, which is a 2-year-old fillies maiden. Interesting race here. Ballydoyle and Jim Bulger are well represented here. One I think will run a big race though at an each way price is a filly of Joe Murphy's, who's a stable that's was hitting the crossbar for a long time, but come into form very much so in the last few weeks. And this is a filly called Shekiba, an Arcano filly, a very eye-catching first time up in a 6 furlong Curragh maiden, won by a Bulger filly called Dawn Delivers. I think plenty of winners are going to come out of that particular maiden. She probably won't. She may not win tomorrow night because a couple of good Ballydoyle ones in there against her, but I think she'll get into 3 at probably quite a good price. In the 7:05, I think probably the best bet of the night runs in the 7:05, which is another maiden, the 3-year-olds and upwards maiden, and this is a Jim Bulger trained filly, an intense focus filly called Dokasuk, number 10. didn't get much luck in running, but ran a really eye-catching race first time up. There's only her second one. First time up in a 9-furlong maiden at Goran last month, won by a pretty useful sort in 2 for Tea, or potentially pretty useful sort in 2 for Tea. I think she could take a lot of beating in that. There's a lot of, I think there's a fair bit of dead wood in that race. I think she could be good enough to beat them all. And the big race, of course, is the Colm Quinn BMW Mile. It's 100 grand race, 120 grand race at 740. Always an ultra competitive handicap. But maybe a couple of you might be able to tell me what's happened to Barrowe's this season, Brian Ellison's, because this horse has a particularly good record at Galway. He was second in the race 2 years ago when he should have won. Was an honest fifth in the race last year. Now He's. I just looked at. If you look at his form going into the last 2 years, he wasn't pulling up any trees going into Galway in either of those 2 years either. But he's dropped down to a rating. He's dropped down now to a mark of 94. Sean Davis is a pretty decent £7 claimer, dropping it back to 87. I mean, if he's anything like the form he was 2 years ago, he's going to take a fair bit of beating there off that sort of mark. He's drawn 11, which is a pretty decent draw around Galway for a hold-up horse. And unless I'm missing something this season with this fellow, he could well be thrown in. And that is my verdict on Galway Tuesday night.
That's absolutely fantastic. Just on Barrowe's quickly, I think I read a piece yesterday actually, and Brian Ellison said, things just haven't gone right for him. He always runs well at this meeting, like you said, but the draw wasn't kind to him last year. But as you've alluded to, it's much kinder this year. So hopefully he'll be able to sneak into the places again. Now we're going to go to our Tuesday nap.
This will not be beaten.
Right, what will not be beaten, Nick Watts?
I'll go for a Marvelous. I can't remember what time it's running. It's in one of the later races at Goodwood tomorrow, trained by Rafe Beckett. I think she'll go very well.
Excellent. I'll just go and try and get that up for you. Justin, what's your Tuesday nap?
I'll go for Seahenge in the 225 at Goodwood.
There you go. Which one?
And the Galway one is Dokasuk in the 705. So two for the price of one.
Thank you very much. That's the 5.15 at Goodwood. You said for a Marvelous, yeah. And Binners, anything that you're particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Marcus Tregoning's Al Rahal in the 4:10, 6 furlong, 2-year-old maiden.
Okay, excellent. That should be about it from all of us. I will just quickly pop in the Twitter Q&A questions that we've got. This one might perhaps be best for Justin. Gerard Byrne asks, with Dermot Weld having had a virus in his yard and not firing in as many winners as he usually does, do you think it will be his worst Galway in a long time, or do you think he'll be able to overcome that, Justin?
It's very difficult to see him overcoming it. I think, yes, it's probably going to be his worst Galway ever, possibly. I'm struggling to see, certainly today and tomorrow, I'm struggling to see where he can get a winner. You have a 2-year-old maiden running tonight, Monday night, that he's won 20 odd times. He didn't even have an entry in it. It's unlikely. There was actually one that I was looking forward to actually maybe tipping up for later in the week, but he's not even running. He's not even entered. And it's sort of symptomatic of the way his season has gone. I think it's going to be a struggle for him. Galway is going to be a struggle for him this year. Okay,
and just quickly on that note, anything you fancy in the top trainer or top jockey markets, or have you not really had a chance to look at that yet?
I think Joseph O'Brien is probably the one to beat. What he has in quality is going to be sort of, well, he has plenty of quality running at the meeting, but quantitatively as well, he's going to be equally represented both flat and jumps at the stable, and absolutely outstanding form. If he doesn't win it, he'd probably be disappointed if he doesn't win it.
Okay, before we go, Richard Farquhar just said, this isn't a question, but can we give young Jack Lander a mention, who's walking 170 miles for Racing Welfare and the Injured Jockeys Fund? Jack's done some excellent walks before. He's raised a whole load of money, so I'm sure from all of us here at the Racing Post, best of luck, Jack, and what you're doing is absolutely excellent. Okay, it'll be goodbye from me, Nick, Justin and Binners. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this week's Postcast. Make sure you subscribe and rate us on iTunes. There'll be shows every day this week from Glorious Goodwood, and we'll also hear the best bets from Galway from our team in Ireland. Thank you for joining us.
Check out Paddy Power's new and exclusive Cash Card Plus, available to use online, at ATMs or even down the local. Paddy Power, you beauty!